This video is sponsored by CASETiFY.
I'm Alex and I'm a recovering iPhone user. I betrayed Tim Cook and I betrayed Steve Jobs, is what they explained it to me. But they took away my fun, they took away my ability to multitask. Apple themselves will never invite me to Cupertino, and that's fair. I had a lot of time to think about it, all of it. Been doing some S23 Ultra reviews, some Fold 4 reviews. And this is gonna sound real stupid coming from a guy who's locked up in an ecosystem. But for the first time in my life, I'm free.
Well, about a month ago I decided to completely switch to the S23 Ultra and get rid of my iPhone 14 Pro Max after 15 years of using iPhones. It's a big deal for me. And Apple, if you're watching, if you want to sell me a flagship iPhone, you got some work to do. I replaced a big expensive iPhone with a cheaper iPhone 13 mini, this guy over here, just to keep my Apple ecosystem going. And I think I may have made a big mistake. So many regrets. I'm Alex and I do down-to-earth tech videos. I still use my S23 Ultra, that's my main device right now, and I also have the Fold 4 here, which I use from time to time depending on what I'm doing. Clearly, I don't plan to go back to Apple anytime soon. I'm more excited about the Fold 5, for example. But anyway, can I be really honest with you? I just can't leave the Apple ecosystem, which is where the iPhone 13 came in. But this phone is really not what I thought it would be. In this video, I'll share the top 4 or 5 issues that I found with the 13 mini, but also share how this little device here is helping me stay in the Apple ecosystem without missing out on what Android has to offer. I actually really enjoy the size of the 13 mini, but the battery is simply not usable for me. And I'll talk about the battery in more detail shortly, but the really interesting thing for me is, in a way, it actually forced me to truly switch to the S23 Ultra and discover the features that it has. Because let's be honest here, come here, let's have a quick word. I'm not saying that this is everyone, by the way, but a lot of people out there say that they switched, but they are still in possession of a big expensive iPhone. Anyway, who cares about that, right? But I say this because I've been there myself, but this time I've got nowhere else to run. My 14 Pro Max is gone. For the first time, like I said, in 15 years, I don't have a flagship device, Apple device, as my main phone. But let me tell you a secret, I'm loving it. I gotta say though, if I'm really honest with myself, those first 2-3 days where my banking apps weren't working, they weren't set up properly, my authentication apps were throwing a hissy fit, my passwords were all over the place. Yeah, I imagine I was going through some sort of iPhone withdrawals, kind of some sort of rehab, but I survived and I'm clean now. And as I said, I'm absolutely loving the experience here with this combo here that I've got. Now, the only reason I need an iPhone right now at all is just to sync my Apple Watch Ultra. And look, I'm fully aware that this is a first world problem, right? I'm very conscious of how silly this might be. There are so many problems in the world right now that people might be facing, and here I am complaining that I need a second device just to carry on using my fancy Apple Watch. This is my tech reality right now, and based on my previous videos and the comment sections, looks like I'm not alone. So I'm hoping that sharing this here with you may help you if you're considering having this mixed up setup of Android and Apple. Getting rid of the Apple Watch Ultra for me was just a step too far. I love this watch and I want to keep it. On the other hand, the iPhone 14 Pro Max was just too expensive. I couldn't, keep that phone just for syncing the watch. It was very much unused, collecting dust. So the 13 mini sounded like a good compromise, right? Until I discovered these problems. Firstly, the battery. A lot of people have alerted me to this, but I wanted to see really, if I'm only just syncing my watch, right, and getting some of my notifications, how bad can this battery really be? Well, bear in mind that the SIM card that I've got on the iPhone 13 mini is not even my main number. This device is constantly connected to my Wi-Fi, and despite that very low usage, the battery doesn't even last till the middle of the afternoon, just standing still here. And sure, I did buy this phone secondhand, so it's not brand new, but I can tell that the battery health is actually still pretty good, sitting pretty here at 97% maximum capacity, if we can trust what Apple say here. There is a word of caution that I'll share later in the video for people looking at the 13 mini, so hang on for that. But in truth, this battery issue doesn't actually bother me too much because of what I'm trying to do with it. It sort of suits me anyway because, like I said, all I care about is my Apple Watch Ultra, but it doesn't stop me thinking, is this even worth it just because of the watch? Should I consider maybe getting an older cheaper, but an iPhone with a slightly bigger battery? Not sure yet. Should I just give up and, let go of the Apple Watch Ultra and be Apple free? That's a consideration as well. It crossed my mind, but I just love this watch. The second major issue, here we go, right? Drama. It's not that bad, but I think it's not just a 13 mini problem. That's kind of a general iPhone problem. Specifically speaking, iOS 16. The iOS 16 experience was a huge deciding factor for me in letting me sort of go of the iPhone 14 Pro Max because, and even though I'm not using this iPhone a lot, every time I do go on it, I just feel disappointed, right? The smoothness and the lack of performance I can kind of understand because, this is not a flagship device. But after using Samsung's OneUI and Android from other devices like the Pixel 7 Pro, iOS is just, to me, it feels like it's being left behind. And hey, if you have an iPhone and everything in your ecosystem is from Apple, right? You've got AirPods, you've got Apple Watch, you've got HomePod and all of that stuff, great. There's a lot to be said about that convenience that you get with the ecosystem. But for me, having experienced now the Tab S8 Ultra, the multitasking capabilities that we get with Android devices, I really think that we're missing out on Apple iOS and iPadOS as well. I love my iPad Pro, don't get me wrong, that device is fantastic from a hardware perspective, but don't get me started on how I feel about the software on it. But I will say, luckily for Apple, there are so many good iPhone and iPad apps that the problem with iOS is almost like masks, right? It's probably not something that a lot of people would notice. I notice it because I use it a lot, I use it for reviews and, but credit where it's due. iOS has been smooth, has provided a great experience. It's very safe, right? It's been that case for a long time. But right now, in the last year or so, it just seems to be a little bit stagnant. And I speak for myself, but I do know there are other people thinking the same. I feel that we've gone, so far ahead with Android. I feel like we've got better software on Samsung devices or Google devices, but the Android apps themselves are not quite there yet in terms of how polished they are and how sleek they are, right? They are getting better, and a lot of the apps that I care about that are actually incredible on Android. Take Adobe Lightroom, for example, or Concept. Superb experience, and there are many others, right? Moving on to another issue, which is an obvious one actually, is the display. It's not that it's small, of course, it says in the name, it's a mini phone, but the refresh rate is not great. After using the S23 Ultra and then picking this up, it just feels really, really odd, right? Even if it's just to send a quick message, I can totally feel the difference, and it's almost like I'm using a phone that is 10 years old or something. It's a shame because I actually like the size, and like I said, I'll probably use it a lot more for things like when I go out for a run or for a dog walk, and I don't particularly want to be taking a bigger phone with me. But the display is simply not good enough from a refresh rate or brightness perspective. But it's not all bad news though. And before I cover the things that I do like about the 13 mini, just a quick word from today's sponsors, CASETiFY. CASETiFY are a very well-known brand when it comes to protective cases and accessories. They sent me these lovely S23 Ultra cases here. Of course, the first thing I did was put a case on it, right? I had a terrible accident with my S22 Ultra last year, so a case was very much needed. I will share a job test in a little bit that, like I do every year. But let me show you this. Inside here, CASETiFY cases have this extra level of protection by using their own inner lining called EcoShock, which gives us more resistance to impact, right? When you drop your phone, this offers a little bit of an extra cushioning. In fact, they offer up to 4 times the military standards, which is 8.2 feet, about 2.5 meters basically. They look very sleek from every angle, and they're actually raised as well, as you can see here. So even when you put the phone facing down on any surface, your display is going to be protected. It's not going to get any scratches. I say any surface within reason, of course, right? Right, let's talk more showing, playing a video here so you can see that the screen is working. Right, let's do this. Okay, video's still playing, and it's absolutely fine. Let's take the case out, make sure there's no damage. They're working absolutely fine. Not a single scratch, nothing. Awesome protection, right? Protection all around the device is awesome, and CASETiFY do a brilliant job at that. But my favorite thing about CASETiFY is actually their customization. They literally have thousands of prints for you to choose from, and not only that, you can customize the cases on their website, which is super fun to do. And that's the beauty of it, right? Sometimes I do like a discreet case, but there are other times when I like to have a bit of fun and, change the look and feel of my device. You might want an even more unique design to represent your own style, They are always refreshing their content too, and every now and then they will do a collab with an artist. So we're always getting new drops, which is really cool. It's hard to combine protection and sleekness, but I think CASETiFY do an awesome job at that. CASETiFY cases are made from 65% recycled and plant-based materials. I know we're talking about buying more plastic and electronic devices, but it's just nice to know that they're paying attention to that sustainability aspect. And the best part, CASETiFY are giving you, all my viewers, 15% discount. Just go to casetify.com/AlexG today to get your 15% off. And thanks CASETiFY again for sponsoring this video. Right, what I like about the 13 mini, as I was saying, it's not all bad news when it comes to this phone. This little phone is keeping the Apple ecosystem going, and fair play, is doing a great job at that. It's like the ecosystem savior here, right? Silly things though, right? Like keeping track of my AirTags or my Find Me enabled devices, the odd airdrop that I need to do. There's a lot of things in the ecosystem that I hadn't really thought about too much, but only became very apparent when I got rid of my 14 Pro Max. And the good thing about the 13 mini is that these things don't require, I basically took them for granted, but they don't really require a lot of power or performance. I went on holiday recently with my family, and there were occasions when I was, I don't know, getting a facial or something. Can you tell? Anyway, I could just leave this phone with my son and keep in touch with him for finding out where we were going to meet up for lunch or whatever. So it did a great job there too, as a kind of almost like a backup phone for my family to use. There are occasions where I was recording a sunset time lapse or whatever, for example, on the S23 Ultra, so I couldn't take a picture at the same time. Again, I'm fully aware of the first world problem aspect here, but the iPhone 13 mini did an okay job for me to take a photo at the same time as recording on my other phone to use it for social media purposes. Would I use a 13 mini photo to edit later in something like Lightroom? No, I wouldn't do that, but it was more than okay for sharing it on socials. And the same goes for video quality, right? I mean, I could probably use it for Instagram and TikTok, but I would not use it in these YouTube videos because you deserve the best quality possible here, right? I'm not messing around when it comes to the content that I share with you. But you might be wondering, Alex, what the hell is the point of this 13 mini, man? I mean, I don't care about any of the things that you said so far. Well, this one kind of surprised me actually. Now, the thing that I like the most about the 13 mini is the convenience of the size, of course. But it reminds me of having like an iPhone 5 or 5S. Fits in any pocket. It doesn't feel like you're going to get carpal tunnel syndrome for just holding the phone in, for a few minutes. But if nothing else, this is a great phone if you want to kind of detox from smartphones in general, because it does limit you in a way that you don't feel like opening it all the time. It's not so much the weight of the iPhone 14 Pro Max that I found difficult, but the squared off design. After a while, it looks beautiful, but it was just very uncomfortable to hold after a long time. Some cases made it feel more comfortable, but ultimately it was just a very difficult device to use, for a long period of time. I kept finding myself using the Fold 4, which is ironic, right, given it this kind of affordable device, or even the Pixel 7 Pro in the evenings because they were just more comfortable to use. And now with the S23 Ultra, that point is proven again. That bigger size is clearly not a problem for me, because again, this is a very comfortable phone to use now. But here's another word of caution. Actually, just quickly before I forget, if you enjoyed this video so far, a thumbs up goes a long way. It really does help me getting the channel discovered out there. And I'm not going to ask you to subscribe for no reason. I appreciate that you might have your established, favorite channels that you like. But after this video, have a look around, and if you like my stuff, if I deserve your sub, it would be awesome to have you on board. I'm here at least once a week with a new down-to-earth tech video for you. There is one more thing on the 13 mini that, or any iPhones for that matter, that still can't do very well. And that is to do with dictation. The script for this video or any video on the channel now are entirely dictated on the Pixel 7 Pro. I love how responsive it is and how accurate it is despite me having a dodgy Brazilian accent, in case you hadn't noticed. Beleza? That's basically how you do it in Portuguese, and if you ever hear that, your answer should be beleza, mano. Mano. Anyway, weird deviation there, but it's true. It actually understands other languages really well too, not just English, and for that reason, I would actually struggle to recommend the 13 mini or any iPhone, for anyone who relies on, things like voice to text or speech recognition features. Ultimately, I'm glad I went with the 13 mini because it's doing the job I wanted to do, holding the ecosystem together for me. But I would be very careful recommending this phone as a main device to anyone because for one, you need to be carrying a charger with you all the time or near a charger. Now, would I recommend this phone for anyone kind of having the same issues like I am? Absolutely. I think this can work really well as a backup device or to fill that gap between the Android and Apple ecosystems. So in that scenario, definitely worth a shot. I've been having a lot of fun with this device, and I'm really surprised at how good this phone is. If you want to see in a lot more detail how I managed to switch from the iPhone to the S23 Ultra, definitely check this video over here. If you've seen that one already, there's a few others here as well that you can check it out. See you soon.